Hello there, this is Rob Kainz, CTO of Ledgerama and creator of Wallawallet. Today we're going to go through a demo of creating an NFT. It's actually going to be using a tool that I created for my company. And we're going to create the NFT and then we're going to browse it and see it on Wallawallet. And I'll take you through the steps of how to create a, this is actually OpenSea compliant NFT, or mostly compliant NFT that we'll create. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do this on the mainnet, but first we're going to do it on the testnet to make sure everything is working fine before we put it on the mainnet. So we're going to go into Wallawallet. We're going to switch this to advanced features. We're going to disable the required checksum and account IDs just for convenience. And now we're going to go up here to the multiple wallets icon. We're going to switch networks to the testnet. And you'll see I have a couple of accounts here that are already set up. One is the fee collector account, which we're going to use. But we're going to create a brand new account, which we're going to use. Let's see. Oops. We're going to select the wallet first, and we're going to add another account here, which we're going to use as the treasury for our new NFT. So we'll go ahead and create, and we'll call this NFT treasury. Get new ID. Let's see. So I'm actually doing something in the background here. I'm updating a configuration file, which is going to use this account now as the new treasury for the NFT when we actually go to create it. Okay, and we'll use the NFT fee collector account that's already set up here. It doesn't have any money in it right now because we're going to set a royalty on this NFT as well, so that whenever it gets exchanged on traded on an exchange, the royalty payment will go to that account. So NFT treasury, we want to grab this account. We're going to need some money in there, so I'm just going to grab the account ID here, and if you long click on it, you can grab it. Here we go. I'll long click on this. We're going to go back to this other testnet account, and I'm just going to go ahead and send some HBAR to the new account, just so we have enough HBAR to play with here. So I don't know how much I need, but that should be plenty. Hopefully. Okay, so the new account should now have enough HBAR. We'll go back to the treasury account that we're going to use. Here we go. This is currently an issue with the mirror nodes, which don't reflect the balance changes quickly for tokens, so they'll probably be about 15 minutes until we see that balance that show up there. Okay, so let's go to actually looking at the resources that we have for our NFT. We're going to make this NFT. It's going to be called MetaDog, and it's basically in honor of my recently deceased. She died end of last year, mini schnauzer. Her name was Ami. So we can see we've got, some photos and movies here of her. So we're going to basically use these in the NFT. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and upload these NFTs, these resources rather, to the remote server. And do that right now. So they'll be accessible on our website. nfts.ledgerama.com, which we'll see later. All right, there we go. So all the resources are now in place on the website. And go ahead and delete them from this directory. Okay. We're going to create the ami.json file, and this file will basically describe the NFT so that wallets and other software will be able to render it. Okay, so I'm going to start adding properties that we need. So we're going to call this thing Super MetaDog Alpha Ami. So this is the series on Ami, and the first dog is going to be Alpha Ami, the version of her with the laser eyes. laser beams in our eyes. Thanks to our artist and CEO, Jeremy Fletcher. So creator did is optional. I don't really have one set up right now, so I'm going to leave this empty. I am creating this in somewhat of a decentralized, or centralized fashion right now because it's all hosted on our Ledgerama.com web server. As we'll see, we can change the keys later, to kind of change it to make it decentralized. We can move it to NFTs and then modify the keys and the location of the metadata file. So description, we're going to say the most powerful immortal MetaDog on Hedera Hashgraph. Image will point to https nfts.ledgerama.com. Type, always good to specify the type here. Otherwise, we'll try to determine it from a file extension, but that may not always work as you expect. So anything you do, of course, you'll want to test on multiple wallets and browsers to make sure that you're getting a good. You can add a background color here. Actually, I don't think this one is currently used, but I'm going to put it in here anyway. It's you use it without the hash mark there. So YouTube URL, we do have one for this video. Now we're going to create some properties here. So we can create properties here, any keys and values, and they will be displayed as a header and then the value in the app. So this is the first NFT created by Ledgerama. We're going to promote our website as well. And these will actually render as clickable links in the wallet. I should have said websites plural because we have two here. And then we did register another domain name, which we'll also register. We'll include here in case we decide to do more of these. I know people love their pets. I know I do. Okay, I'm going to put a disclaimer here about the centralization, right? Some files related to this NFT are centrally stored. And the metadata may be subject to change. And a license here as well. So we're not going to give license to change these photos. After discussion with my wife, modify any of the associated multimedia files in any way for commercial or personal purposes. No derivative works. Okay, now we get to the interesting part, which is a description of the file section. Now this is a OpenSea compliant format, as we can see here, and it's case insensitive here, so you can specify the format in any case. Now in the OpenSea format, the files array is actually put here underneath properties. It's embedded underneath the properties, but in the general Hedera specification, it's not. It would be at the root, and properties are kept separate from it. And not everything you see here in the files array might be strictly the OpenSea spec, because we are including, in this case, metadata which works with the Hedera spec, but it's very convenient to have this here. Because it makes for a better browsing experience, as we'll see once the NFTs are created. Yeah. And remember, when you put image JPEG in there for the type, it's got to be image/JPEG. JPG is not correct, and it won't be treated correctly if you do that. And there is a technical reason for that, but I'm not going to go into it. Okay, so properties. And now actually what we're going to do is we're going to embed another files array underneath this one. So we're going to say, oops, files. So this is actually going to create a hierarchical browsing experience. So you'll have, one at the top that you'll see with a picture of her there, and then you'll click in here, and then you'll see other files underneath it, as if you're browsing like a an Explorer in an operating system or something, a file explorer. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste these so that I don't spend forever and a day entering all of this stuff in. So there's the first file I'm going to put here. And this will be the rest of the files for this particular section. So this is the videos. So you can see we're putting in Super MetaDog videos, Ami the MetaDog videos. We have an image here. The image is a thumbnail image. It's supposed to be a small image that is a representation of what the file actually is. So, there's a summary card and a detail card. When you go into the details, that's when you'll see the actual file. So those actual files might be quite huge. So instead of rendering the whole big file, we're going to render the image here at the front, at the top. And we also have a name and a description here that we'll also show. So when you browse into it, there is no file associated with this particular file. If there was, you would see a URI here, because it's just a collection of other files. So in this case, when you go down here into the next file that's embedded hierarchically underneath that, you will see a URI. So that's the URI to the actual file name itself. In this case, it is a movie file. But the movie file is not what you'll see on its summary card. What you'll see on its summary card is instead of this image. So it's a screenshot from that movie file. So if we go down here, we're done with the first collection of files. Now we are going to add some additional files. Let's see, oops, I got to make sure I do this correctly. So we're closing this guy out, him out, him out. Okay, so I believe it's here, right? So now we're going to add photos. Photos are next here, so there's a whole bunch of metadata for photos. And then down here, we're going to add one more thing, and that's a PDF document of her. It's heavily redacted, but it's of her American Kennel Club documentation, just to show you that you can put a PDF in these things. You can also put 3D models, USDZ files on iOS and GOB files on Android, but we're not going to do that for any of her stuff here, just photos and videos. And we are going to put in a bunch of attributes, and I'm just going to copy and paste these attributes as well. Version and decimals at the end. I think they might have been mentioned in the spec somewhere, but they're not really used. So attributes here are the OpenSea related attributes. We just created some random attributes here, which you'll see that depending on the trait type and that they are rendered differently. So that's it for the metadata for her. Just to go through this a little more carefully here, the photo section that we added, There's one photo image for kind of the photo album, which is listed right here. And then as you drill down to it, there's more files again. Each one of them has a URI pointing to the actual photo. In this case, the photos and the thumbnails are the same. So I think each picture is kind of big, maybe 3 megabytes or something. And so like I said, this is kind of a centralized manner. If we needed to, we could put smaller images, for the thumbnails so that the browsing experience is better. And we may do that. May do that later. Okay, so we have this. Now what we should do is actually pull up JSON lint or some kind of a, to make sure to validate our JSON and make sure it's correct, and it is. So this JSON is good to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back here to our file browser, refresh this, and this Ami JSON file, we're going to go ahead and double click it, push it to the server so that it's there on the server, and we're going to verify it too, that it was done correctly, that it was, we're going to go ahead and grab the URL. Here we go, here it is. And we'll test it on the server. And you can certainly use this as well to read the JSON file there if you want to look through it. So you can see it's available now on nfts.ledgerama.com. Okay, so now we're actually going to go ahead and create the NFT first on the testnet and then on the mainnet. And to do that, we need a different file, which we'll go ahead and create now. And it doesn't matter what I call this. It's just going to be basically test.json. It's also a JSON file. And the purpose of this file is to use my tool that I've created to actually create and mint an NFT. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste the contents right here, and I'll walk through it, and we'll talk about it a little bit. So when you create an NFT, there are a number of decisions you have to make, and I'm not really going to cover every one in detail here. But you need to basically, it's a good idea to go to the Create Token APIs, read about all these different fields for both creating a token and updating one. You'll see different things here: symbols, decimals, initial supply, treasury account, and a bunch of keys. There's a whole number of keys associated with it, different kinds of keys for managing the NFT. Either administrating it, changing the fees that are associated with it. You can associate royalty fees with an NFT, which we're going to do as an example here. So there's fees you can associate with it. You can whether or not you can designate certain keys, access to wiping and freezing NFTs as described here in the documentation. So I'm not going to go through that, but I recommend reading about it. We can talk about these keys here, the way that I have them set up and what we're planning to do. So I have two mnemonics. One begins with the word lab, one begins with the word alter. I'm going to go ahead and use the lab mnemonic for all the ones that you see here for the treasury key, which is the main key needed for the treasury for creating the token. The wipe key makes it impossible to remove tokens from user's account. The fee schedule key is what's used for managing the fees associated with the NFT. The admin key is used to perform update, delete operations on the token. If it's empty, it can be perceived as immutable. So at first, because we plan to do a series of NFTs, we're going to have over 12,000 of these NFTs, but it's going to be a series. There's going to be multiple dogs. And we've done it in such a way that the first batch is going to be 142, I think, and that's going to be Ami, the one that we've created here. And she's basically going to be the rarest of them. The ones after that will be less rare and less rare. And there will likely be different versions of her. So then there's a supply key, the key which can change the supply of a token, the freeze key, which makes it impossible to freeze or unfreeze an account, which makes it possible to freeze or unfreeze an account for the token transactions. But we're setting that to null because we don't care about doing that. The pause key, we're going to use the lab mnemonic right now. It allows us to pause and unpause a token. And the KYC key, in this case, we're not going to use it, so we're going to set it to null. But we can actually change many of these keys after the fact. So if you look at the update token documentation here from Hedera, you can see that these the mentioned keys here, they can also be updated. So you can modify them to remove them at any time. So that's kind of what we're planning to do with our tokens, with our NFT. We're going to create all these NFTs, and it might take us a while. It could take us months because we've got a lot of other things to do than worry about NFTs. But once we do get to a point where we feel like the series is done, they're all created, we're going to go ahead and clear out these keys, and we're just going to leave the fee schedule key and probably the treasury key, and all the rest of them will be wiped out. So when the admin key is wiped out, you can consider it as immutable. It can't be changed anymore. But ideally, it would be pointing to resources on IPFS, but those resources have to be pinned to nodes. And honestly, in order for IPFS to perform really well, they need to be pinned to multiple nodes. And really, to get the best performance, you need to run like an IPFS client on the device. And right now, it's not easy to create and run an IPFS client on a mobile phone, especially on both Android and iOS. It is something in our backlog that we're hoping to get to at one point to improve the experience with IPFS. But at least initially, you might find that tokens with IPFS resources, especially large ones like videos, they're not going to perform nearly as well as if they were on a server that can handle serving up the files and have more bandwidth. So let's look at these Hedera tasks. This is all it takes for my tool to create an NFT and to do some minting. So the ID is just an ID just to let you know what task you're currently executed when you run it. We're doing the create token. We're going to use the lab mnemonic. So when you see lab here, this is an alias to the whole mnemonic. It's provided via a hidden file on the file system. It's only the user has access to it on macOS here. So I provide it as an environment file to the server here that I'm running that's going to actually create the tokens. So in this case, I have operator, private key in an account. I have the token treasury private key, treasury account ID, supply, all these keys that you saw before, they're kind of initialized as it was described in the document, right? A bunch of these are set to lab. The token fee schedule public key is pointing to an account. This account has an alias, which is also set up in the environment that I've sent in. So it's going to point to the fee collection account, which in this case is going to be this account right here. It'll point to that number. Let's see. So if we go back and look at the treasury account now and refresh it, enough time has passed so the tokens are coming up and it found that there's no tokens. So a bunch of these keys are set to null. That's fine. We're doing a non-fungible unique token, an NFT. We're calling the token name Super MetaDog. We're calling the token symbol MDOG. The token memo is Super MetaDog Ami, alpha to omega. The token decimals is 0. Token initial supply is 0. The token max supply is 12742. The token supply type is finite, so we're only going to have a finite. There'll never be more than that many NFTs for this series. And the token label, this is just a label so that the next task that execute can refer back to this same token that was created. And here's where we specify the custom fees. So we're going to have a custom royalty fee set up, and this fee is going to use this fee collector account, which is the same account that was mentioned up here as for the public key. So in this case, it's an alias to the public key that's going to manage that account. In this case, it's an alias to the account number. So just imagine that this was an account number, a Hedera account number. So numerator and denominator are specified. So this means that 33% of any royalties that are paid will go to the account number that's mentioned by this alias here, referred to by this alias. So that means that certain amount of value has to be exchanged, right? So if we have, in this case, the value is HBAR. So if we're exchanging HBAR, a certain amount of HBAR for the NFT, that HBAR will go to 33% of it will go to this account. So in that case, you need a multi-signature transaction because the person who's purchasing it is going to be sending. Actually, you don't in this case. This case you don't. However, there is a case where you can add a fallback fee here, and the reason you would want to do that is if you're the NFT creator and you don't want others to send the token, with an outside agreement with the person that they're doing business with, basically to say, hey, you send me the HBAR in a separate transaction, and I'll send you this NFT in a separate transaction. If they do that, then the seller can keep the entire amount that was transferred. But if they do it on an exchange as part of an atomic transaction where they're both included in the same transaction, that's when the royalty takes effect, and the 33% of the exchanged value would go to us. Now in this case it's HBAR. There's ways to set it up so that you can accept other forms of payment as well. Like maybe we should set it up for USDC on the mainnet as well. So we'll likely do that in the future. We can add USDC in here to set it up so that we can also accept a stable coin. So any stable coin that we accept that's mentioned here in the custom fees and also associated with the custom fee account, will work at that point. But if you add what's called a fallback fee, the fallback fee will take effect if the royalties can't be collected because the buyer and the seller, did it in two separate transactions, right? So if no royalty can be assessed from the value being exchanged in a single transaction, then the fallback fee would take effect. So that's a way for the NFT creator to get some amount of money, and that's a fixed fee. So they could say, all right, give me 1,000 HBAR if no royalty is exchanged. So that's kind of how that works. There's more to custom fees. You can add custom fees to regular fungible tokens as well. And, so it's good to be aware of that. The new version of Wallawallet will warn you about that when you're dealing with other tokens that have custom fees associated with them. Those fees can be added at any time to those tokens. So for the mint section here, so what we've done up to this point is we've created the NFT, and in this case the NFT series, the Super MetaDog. And it's going to be a limited series of 12,742. And that's going to be associated with one token ID that's created with this. But, of course, you can always create another token ID and have it, be, you can also call it the same label if you want. You can call it MDOG, right? So both of them can have the same token symbol MDOG, but they can point to two different token IDs. One of them is going to be official, another one might be a copycat. Somebody might take all of my data here, because it's all publicly available on this server if you know how to get to it, which I'll show you how to do. You could take all of that data and you could create your own version of the NFT, and of course you'd be breaking some laws, you'd be stealing somebody else's property, and they could come after you if they can track you down. So I highly don't recommend doing that. It's just not right to begin with. But and that's really kind of where the decentralized identity comes in that we talked about before. In the Ami document at the beginning, right? The creator did. So in the future there will be a way, it's not implemented yet, but there will eventually be a way in Wallawallet to be able to use this DID to verify that it, who the creator was, and that the actual person who minted this NFT, the actual company that minted it, is who they say they are. But that's not here yet. So we're going to go ahead and mint just one of these NFTs for now on the testnet by taking this and submitting it to my running server as a request body here. And it's going to be a post request, and it's going to have the content type application JSON header, which is required, and I'm going to submit it to a running local server. So let's see what happens. Okay, looks good. So we can look through the status here. We can see that a new token was created with this ID, and that one new serial number, number 1, was created. So let's go ahead and look at the application here. Wallawallet, we'll do a refresh. You can refresh either by dragging the header down or clicking on the refresh icon. Well, actually, it's an NFT, so, and there is that 15-minute delay currently, which is a bit annoying. It's supposed to be addressed at some point in the near future in production so that you don't have to wait so long for the token balance. But because this was a newly created token, you're not going to see it in this tokens list for about another 10 or 15 minutes. But we can click on NFTs and we'll see it right there. So we can see the NFT right now in our collection. So we'll go ahead and click it, and let's take a closer look at it. This is a little issue that needs to be addressed. If we click on transactions here, we can see that this was the token mint, right? This is the first transaction where the token was minted. And so we're actually looking at the token details. And if we click search here, it'll just make the screen larger so we can see. So if we remember, we can look here. If we remember from the metadata, we saw this metadata here. The creator and the description were at the top, the first things that we'd entered in. And here's the photo. There will be a full screen icon here for photos at some point so that you can see them full screen. But you can, typically you can share this shares the photo, not the NFT. It'll share the resource here with somebody. You can download it to your device if you want. added your photos. If we scroll down here, we can see the video on YouTube. And let's go ahead. There we go. So it does have the full screen. So we can click on full screen and we can see Amy running out here outside in my backyard. Do miss that dog loader so much. Okay, Ledgerama, Wallawallet, Ledgerama URL is here. So any of these, if we click these, right, so Super MetaDog doesn't exist yet, so you're not going to see much there, but if you click Wallawallet, it'll bring you here in a web browser to Wallawallet, and then you can click on that to come back to your application, to the Wallawallet app. Disclaimers and the license that we've entered is there. So here's the videos. If we click on this, this is what I was saying, the hierarchical browsing. This is an image here that was used kind of as a thumbnail, and because this one doesn't have a video, it's a collection of videos, you're just going to see the thumbnail again at the top. So you scroll down here, you can see a bunch of different videos, and these are actually hosted on the server here, so not on YouTube. So you can browse these videos here in the player. So a couple of videos there, and then here's the PDF document. You know, there is a way to browse this and to zoom in and to scroll through the different pages. But you can also click browse for the PDF. You can browse your PDF in your mobile browser. You can share it as well as a document with others. And after that, we have the properties that we talked about before. And this is how they render the different widgets that are currently supported. I think the rarity trait stuff is not yet supported. Hopefully that will come soon, though. But hopefully this will be enough to at least get people started. Okay, so that's it for the testnet part. So we've created the NFT successfully on the testnet, and we see that wasn't too hard to do. So now what I'm going to do is in the background here, I'm going to modify my keys. The keys that the account numbers that I was using to change to the mainnet account numbers so that we can run this on the mainnet. Okay, so that's done. So let's go over here, change the network. We're going to go back to mainnet. We have this mainnet wallet set up here. And this is the NFT treasury account that we're going to use, 1290601. So now we can actually use the very same text here that we entered in for the mainnet, or for the testnet that we ran for the testnet, but run it for the mainnet. So before I do that, though, I actually have to reconfigure. It'll just take me a minute here. Reconfigure the running server to run on the mainnet. So I'm just doing that part off screen here. Okay, it's up and running. So I'm going to go ahead and click send and hope for the best. It's taking a bit longer on mainnet than it did on the testnet to run. I guess that's a good sign. Hopefully the mainnet is busy. Alright, so we'll scroll down here and see what happened. So we do see success. A new token was created with this token ID, and a new one was minted. So we'll go over here. Once again, this 15-minute delay thing's not working. You did see the value here decrease a little bit in HBAR. You know, we did have more HBAR, so we were charged for it. So if we go to NFTs, we do see it here. So that's terrific. So there we go. This is the very first NFT created by Ledgerama, specifically for and to test Wallawallet, and we are going to give a whole bunch of these away, and they may show up on exchanges. But thanks for your attention, and if you'd like to see this NFT creation tool open sourced, you know, drop us a line. Let us know what you think. Appreciate it. Thank you.